Hi, everyone. I'm Tandy Gutierrez, founder and creator and coach and wellness witch at unicornwellnessstudio.com. Unicornwellnessstudio.com is a membership-based online wellness center anchored in 30-minute mat-based workouts, a monthly guided meditation, new and full moon tarot readings, all based and written in a 4-week cycle format in accordance to the current astrology and moon cycles. It is a community filled with incredible women sharing their personal magic in all kinds of ways. Each month, I feature a unique unicorn and share her story, why she gets on the mat in meditation and in the tarot on a regular weekly basis. We explore how it supports her expanding her particular magic in the world and why she'll never go without this community or its practices. Please meet Paula Jones. Paula, would you tell us about yourself?
Yes, so I'm Paula, obviously. I am a massage therapist, although I'm not able to practice right now. And I think probably, truthfully, a healer. I have a deep and actually pretty long-standing interest in plant medicine. I haven't been able to study that as deeply as I'd like, but it definitely is there, and the knowledge crops up when I need it. I'm a painter and an artist. I danced the for most of my life, and that's super core to who I am. But I also found out just the mindful movement is absolutely key to helping me stay centered and sane.
Yeah.
So then I found out that it's key to everyone's center and
Well,
sanity.
I was going to say kindred spirits around here because same, I danced, and these days I'm like, mat is life. It is my sanity. Um,
Yeah.
where are you and I live in the same place? Where are you living right now?
So I live in Brooklyn.
And how long have you been here?
Um, Continuously, I've been here for almost 11 years, for 10 and a half years.
Yeah, it's a long time. Are you
So
originally from here?
I am originally from Kansas City, Kansas. Um, so the Twin City where the Chiefs are from, just in case the president hasn't figured it out yet. Um,
And you and I are the same age, yeah?
yes, so I am 42,
Yeah.
or I will be 42 by the time this airs.
We will, because we're not very far apart in our birthdays either. Um, cool. Okay, so let's make the transition, because you were about to make the transition anyway, talking about
Mhm.
mindful movement and the aspect of sanity. How did you find, or how did you come to unicorn wellness?
So that's like kind of my favorite thing about Unicorn Wellness is that I actually already knew you.
Yeah.
And I think mindful movement is very funny. I wouldn't have had the words to express that when I realized that I needed mindful movement. As in, I remember being 13 and having been out of dance class for 6 months or so, and telling my mom I'm going crazy.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the vocabulary to say my sleep is being affected. The quality of my sleep isn't working. I can't focus. I can't, there were all of these things going on. I just knew that I felt like I was like I was going crazy
Yeah.
without dance. And so fast forward to 5-ish years ago, a little more,
Yeah.
and I was quite an adult by that point, and taking trying to at least stay in 2 dance classes a week here in New York City, because I still knew that I needed movement, and it couldn't just and that just movement didn't fix it. Like I can
Mm,
remember even being a freshman in college, and knowing that it helped to like do a workout, but it didn't do the same thing as when my mind was engaged.
Yeah.
And I hadn't been paying as close of attention as I should have liked, but I did, you know, I had caught up with you on Facebook because we went to college together the first time.
I was gonna say, are you gonna tell it, or do I have to tell the story? Like, we have known each other for over 20 years, but not like, you know, in each other's back pockets for most of that time. And so you kind of, about 5-ish years ago, you were like swooping back around and you were like, hey, I know her and she's doing this thing. Is that kind of how it happened?
Yeah, wait, well, it was like, because we were in the same sort of running circle at school, you know, not like the super, super close, but I I I went looking for you because I missed you, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I missed that chick. I wonder if I can find her now that it's so easy with Facebook.
Right.
Um, and we had been friends on Facebook for a while actually before I was like, oh, she's doing this thing. And if there's one thing that I know, it's that this person actually genuinely cares about me.
Yeah.
Um, you know, which is important to me. You know, that I'm like, this person actually cares about my wellness. They actually care about everybody's wellness, but I knew that you actually cared, and I'm
She's not
like,
schlepping something to make a buck.
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
You know, I have a teacher that I love to take from here in the city, and when you ask her a question, she gives you a correction. If you say thank you, she'll say you're welcome. That's my job.
Right.
But but yeah, and so, you know, knowing from past experience and even just having caught up with you on Facebook, I was like, oh, she actually cares about me. She's doing this thing and I trust her, and I know that she's been a dancer. I know how long she's been studying Pilates because I studied Pilates with her.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I and you know, and I know that she's an intelligent and caring person, and intelligent on multiple levels, right?
Yeah.
um, I was just like, you know, why not give that a shot? And it was, at the time, it was a 30-day challenge. I think that was free, but I joined the challenge knowing that I was not going to leave.
You were like, I'm just gonna pretend for 30 days.
Yeah, like I joined it knowing that I was like, I'm not, I really, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I can remember the very first, within 5 minutes of starting the first workout, I was like, Tandy. um, that the difference that it made in my strength,
Yeah.
and I could feel the difference within the first like couple of weeks
Yeah.
personally. And so like that was incredible to be like, not even 30 days in, and I could feel the difference within the first couple of weeks. Being a massage therapist also, especially once I started the position that I was in up until the quarantine started, and working on 6 hands-on hours a day, 6 bodies a day, I had started to have some low back pain despite my best efforts with body mechanics, and that went away immediately.
Wow.
And so I was just like, this is awesome, and I can you know, and it's accessible, which is super important to me in terms of price. Like I couldn't take I couldn't take 2 dance classes a week for $32 a month.
Yeah. I always take it as high praise, in particular from you, because we have similar backgrounds. We went to college together. We studied Pilates together because it was part of our college program. But I always take it as high praise from you in particular because you're a licensed massage therapist, where I always go, oh, she sees it at a different level and feels it at a different level. And just like you said, even with all the body knowledge and your best efforts at keeping good posture with knowledge, repetitious movement just has its wear and tear on a body. And even same for me, right? I sit a whole lot more now that I'm online, and that there's issues because I have an old hip injury that is just like, even with best efforts, you can have some stuff that you need to support or work on or work through. So it always makes my little heart so happy that you as a licensed massage therapist are like, yes. Had you had, and the fact that like in Brooklyn, in New York, anywhere, I'm the same way. You go to take classes. I don't understand how anybody affords to take most studio classes, because,
Right.
and this is part of my commitment when we launched this 7 years ago now, that I wanted it to be accessible, because this is a more boutique experience, but a boutique experience is really expensive
Right.
in real life. Now that we're all in quarantine, it's the only experience. But I love that, because those were the important pieces to me, is that there was something accessible, because I'm not cheap, but I want a value for things. And I've been teaching in studios for forever where I couldn't afford to take the classes.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that seemed crazy to me.
Yeah. No, I mean, when I quit taking class regularly, classes were an average of $18
Yeah.
each. And which I'm happy to pay if I have it, because like I know that the instructors here in the city, when they're teaching live, they get paid per head. Like, it's not a,
Yeah.
you know, I'm like, they deserve that. Well, and I mean, and I take from people that I want to have that, but you know, in terms of what I can actually, what's actually sustainable over time in terms of expense, Unicorn Wellness was just more accessible.
Yeah.
So,
Great. Um, did you have, so I mean, we've known each other for a long time and you trusted me. However, we're all human. Did you have any resistances to it in the beginning or over time? Like, I'm not doing that. This part does not resonate.
so my biggest resistance was, like, I remember at the beginning looking at the reset and going, I'm not doing that. And it was like, and I know that and I know now that you hear it all the time, like, I already know how to eat healthy.
Right. And you laughing.
I'm laughing because it's a guilty laugh. I'm like, everybody says that. I know how to eat
Everybody.
healthy.
I know
I
how to
know
eat
how to eat
healthy. I
healthy.
just don't do it. Or I do eat healthy.
Or I know I do eat healthy. Like, that was the thing. I'm just like, dude, I do eat healthy, and it hasn't made a difference. And that was the other thing, that one of the other things that led me to Unicorn Wellness, is it was another last ditch effort, although I should never call anything a last ditch effort, because I will keep searching until I find a solution. But I did have 25 pounds of medical weight gain that would not come off for nearly 5 years. And so I was looking for a solution to that as well. And 6 months in, my body had changed. I was definitely leaner, but I was not losing the weight.
Yeah.
And I was just pissed off.
You're like, I see it coming. And I know what she's going to tell me if I ask a question.
I was just pissed off that it wouldn't come off, and I was just like, so I guess I'm going to try this crazy thing. And if I had it to do over again, I would not have done it in the hottest part of the year, because I'm heat sensitive and you got
Yeah.
to run the oven. And if you don't live in Brooklyn, you don't know how much we have to utilize window air conditioning units. And there isn't one in
Or
my,
your oven heat in the winter. Like,
yeah, that too.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
You did
like,
your first reset in the summer. Bless your heart.
in the summer, because I didn't want to do it during baking season and apple picking season, honestly.
Okay, that might be the most Taurus thing you've ever said. I got pies to bake, Mama, so not happening.
Yeah, no, it's just like, yeah, I'm going apple picking. I have pies to bake. I am not doing this during baking
I
season.
love it.
I'm not doing this during the holidays. And that means if I don't do it now, then I'm not doing it until after the holidays, until like January.
Yeah,
And that first reset, as you well remember, was so difficult for me.
yeah.
At one point, I really quit commenting in the group completely for like 2 weeks because I figured I didn't have anything nice to say, so I just wasn't gonna say anything.
She my friend. I know it's valid, but I don't want to say anything right now.
I was like, I didn't have anything nice to say. I didn't want to say anything. Um, and really, you kind of nudged me in the group and said, "What's going on over there?" And I'm like, "This sucks."
Actually, it's terrible. Okay, but
Mhm.
wait, was the food terrible? No.
No, the food was amazing. And I was really blessed that I loved the food, but the heat was terrible. The grain and sugar withdrawal was
Mm,
terrible. And and I don't know. I know that those, like the heat and the withdrawal, like both of those contributed to it really, really being difficult, and difficult through most of it for me.
okay.
So through most of that first reset. Now, hilariously, I like by the time that I 3.5, 4 weeks in, I finally started feeling better, which is longer than most people.
It's long, but it's not uncommon. It is longer than most, but just to say this so it doesn't like totally scare people off from it. I love to ask what people's resistances are because that's my favorite part, because that which you resist persists. And if you can, embrace the resistance, there's so much learning and healing on the other side of it. But it's real. It's so real. And yours was really real. You're like, I don't like the heat. This Brooklyn, this sucks. And then your detox, which is a terrible word, but one that we'll use, process was hard. 4 weeks is really where the big transition of gluten is, and grains, and that sugar exit. So it's not surprising. But meanwhile, you resisted it. It was terrible, but you
I
stuck
resisted
with
it for
it.
like, I did. And that's probably my Taurus sun and Capricorn moon that together just going, I am going to stick with this because I want to see if it works, because nothing else has. And with everything going on in here, something's happening.
Yeah. So because you've done the reset 4 times now,
For
4. Okay. So it was terrible, but y'all listening, she's done it 4 times.
the first one was terrible.
Okay. And then, so what was the outcome from the reset? The first time you
So
completed?
that first one, the outcome of that first one, there were a lot of outcomes actually, but the biggest one that I was looking for is that 10 pounds of that weight gain that I had been trying to get rid of that wouldn't move went away.
Just gone.
It dropped off for the first time. 10 or 12 pounds, and then my skin was glowing. um I felt better, I felt clearer. And I at I think right after that I made a trip actually back to the Kansas City area to see my parents, and I looked so good that my mom started thinking about joining the site.
Okay, I had this as a note. I was like, are we gonna get to this? I don't know. Well, let's circle back to that note because that's a big deal. But so like around 10 to 12 pounds, like gone, like medical weight gain that you'd had for like 5 years. You
Yes,
finally were like, oh, okay.
it finally went. And that was huge because, like I said, for years I had tried to, and I think that especially in today's, and maybe my dancer brain set, but that was the thing that made me go, obviously that my quote unquote healthy eating wasn't working and this did.
Yeah.
And I think that what I love about the reset is that it's not a one size fits all diet. It's a toolkit so that you can learn what fits your system,
Totally.
your individual system. And I think I've said in the Facebook, like, guys, there's nothing wrong with diets. It's just that you're running around trying to figure out whether someone else's food code works for
Yeah,
you.
totally.
And this is the reset is, it tells you what your it tells you what your food code is,
Yeah.
rather than you trying to find somebody whose food code is close to yours and therefore works for you.
Yeah. It's so true, because this was part of my personal frustration and why I wrote it, is that, I was in a place of going to a lot of practitioners in LA and New York, and tried one of everything, hired people, really intelligent people to help me. But I had particular issues with autoimmune, but I didn't know they were autoimmune at that point. But anything I tried didn't work, or it worked a little bit, but not really. And I thought, this is baloney. There should be a way that we can crack our own food code and figure out what works best for us. And so that's what the reset ends up being, is how to crack your own food code. And it's not about me telling you to do certain things for 40 days. This is about cracking it, then making choices of, do I participate in these foods? Do I not? Do sometimes I participate? How can I heal for the long run and quit bouncing around between the newest diet that I'm trying to make work for me? So I
Right.
love that you had that recognition in it. To skip a tiny bit, where did the remainder of the medical weight gain come off? Like, when and how? Because did it finally?
So it did finally come off. And I did go back and repeat the reset, partially because there were factors in it that I wanted to see what would happen if I didn't have that factor, what would happen
Yeah.
if I didn't have this factor. And sort of double check. It got to where it was kind of a once a year. I think we were joking that it was my winter thing.
Yeah, great. You
That
know?
I would do once a year. Um, but the remainder of it came off. I had, and this was actually several years ago, but I had bed bugs, and at one point I thought that I had bed bugs that wouldn't die, because I kept getting because I kept getting these itching red welts that looked like bites, and no one could see them. And you actually said, I want you to go off gluten for 12 weeks. And I was like, I don't want
I'd rather chase imaginary bed bugs.
but that's way more frigging expensive than going off of gluten.
Yeah.
Um, and I had been working on, and I guess that's another thing that I do. I love to bake specifically to your food code.
You're the only person who can bake for me, by the way.
Um, it makes me happy. But I had been baking gluten free for a while, and I had another friend that couldn't have gluten or any type of poultry,
Hmm.
so I had sort of cut my teeth baking and cooking for her.
Yeah.
um, and there came a point, like within 2 or 3 weeks of you saying that, when I baked something, I think it was blondies or something, but once I had gotten that recipe right, I was like, okay, now I can kick the gluten out.
Like, I can do it now. I'm
I can do
prepared.
it now. And at the end of 12 weeks, it was we all laughed in the Facebook community, because I had just trimmed my hair that morning as well the for the video. And um I went in the Facebook group and went, "Hey, trimmed my hair, hit my target weight."
Totally.
But it was the 12-week mark of gluten being out of my system. It's
Ah,
definitely yeah, it's not a fit for me.
yeah.
So
Interesting. Okay, I don't, some of these details, I don't know that
Yeah,
by no, you know what I mean?
and within 2 weeks of going off of the gluten, all of my imaginary bed bug bites cleared up.
Oh, well, that part I knew.
Yeah, and so, just to say that for the record, like, they were hives. And so now when people are like, oh, you can cheat on your diet, I say, no, you can cheat on my diet, but I'm not getting hives.
Right? This is not about a diet and restriction and deprivation. This is about my health and how I like to feel. End story. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Um, do you want to, or I again, sometimes I just ask questions and you get to say yes or no. Did you want to elaborate on where the medical weight gain came from? What kind?
Well, sure, because actually, Unicorn Wellness helps me to manage that. Let me start that again.
Like it's when you get excited, I do the same thing.
The medical weight gain came from antidepressants.
Yeah.
And they did not tell me that when I started them. And I feel like that's really wrong that because it's fairly common actually for some antidepressants to cause weight gain, which I think is insane because they know that you're more likely to suffer from depression if you're overweight. So they give you medication that causes weight gain.
Yeah. That.
That's not, it's not an empowered choice. It's not an informed decision.
And that's the main thing. And I'm asking you about this because we do have a lot of members on the site that come to manage depression.
Hmm.
And we do have a lot of members who come because of they're wanting to find, I'm not a medical doctor and I'm not encouraging this, but I encourage everybody making informed decisions and following their own path that feels right for them. We have a lot of members that come looking for solutions and ways to wean off of it, in particular because they have had this medically induced weight gain that compounds all of it.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, and again, to make an informed decision, sometimes you need meds, and
Absolutely.
that's not wrong. There's like
Correct.
nothing wrong with you.
Yep.
But I've found that with Unicorn Wellness, just meditation, hydration, it's been a lot easier to manage my depression, my anxiety, my like the all of the things that I've PTSD to manage those things. And I'm not on antidepressants now. They're the sort of final piece to the puzzle for me was actually a pretty new field that is therapeutic touch,
Yep.
non-sexual therapeutic touch. And that has been super, super helpful. It actually moved me faster into recovering and healing than anything else I've tried. And so like that's just what worked for me.
Yeah.
Better than therapy, better than, like, for me that was the last piece.
Yeah. We hear in a lot, and not to, I want to add this note too, because as a helper, one, I manage depression and anxiety. And why I teach what I teach is because these are the combos that worked for me. And I hadn't found my combo out there prior to really going, okay, I'm just not going to listen to anybody else for a little while and do what resonates and what I know works for me. And so that's one. And I still use them, and especially in times of stress and trauma, more so to help manage it. But the power of the reset in helping us template and manage those things, because what people don't often know is that gluten is one of the main contributors to depression. And so, looking at timing, it is about us finding our own unique, food code. It is about finding the pieces that support us. And I offer those three pieces because that's what supports me. And I knew if that supported me in one space, there got to be some other people it was helpful for. And then I love this, and you know this too, that the private Facebook group and the community is super supportive and encouraging of whatever those additional pieces are. And for a lot of our members, it is chemical medication because they got to get a foothold somewhere.
Yeah.
And that the touch therapy, I think I watched it with you, was incredibly like transform. It was literally the last piece of the puzzle. And I also see EMDR be really powerful for our members in this last piece component. So
Right.
knowing that we're a community who practices on the mat in meditation and the tarot, we're also not like restrictive to other things, that we honor the
Right.
journey, the path, but mostly we honor like, what do you, Paula or Tandy, need? And where's your voice and your choice in it, and what makes you feel safest and most comfortable? That's what we support through it. So I think it's beautiful because that medically induced weight gain it's a big deal, and it compounds the issues. And we do have a lot of members who come, they do the reset, midway, they start on the mat, do the reset, and then have this like release. And then there's this motivation to go, okay, now I can keep going with things. And the load energetically is lighter.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's why whenever, like on the rare occasion now, when you mention the reset, I'm like, reset, reset. They're like, but it's so hard. I'm like, dude, it is not going to be harder than my first reset was. I'm telling you, it's worth having the knowledge.
Yeah. That right there. And I always jump in and go, I wrote it because I needed it. It saved my life. It literally saved my life. And so I just go, there's power in it. And like, don't tell yourself it may be hard. It may be hard. It's not
but I have repeated it 3 times, and like even the second time around it's a lot easier because you kind of already know what you need, what to eat. Like you've already have a sort of you have a reset rhythm.
Totally. Absolutely. That's a beautiful way to put it. That's like the perfect way to phrase it.
Yeah, you have a reset rhythm, and then that becomes your food code rhythm.
Yeah.
And that's and it becomes a sustainable lifestyle.
Totally.
Because you can, and then like I said, you can make an informed decision.
Yeah.
And that's empowering.
Because you mostly live by your food code now, and you make decisions sometime to like do something else, but you're like, no, I live by that now. Did you ever think before you started it that would be the case?
I thought it was possible.
Okay.
I thought it was possible because I was like, if it were, I'm a person that I'm like, if it works, I'll stick with it.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
And it's simple. Yeah. I'm like, if it works and it's simple and it's, I can, for me, that it's a relatively easy to stick with.
Yeah.
What I know works. It's, and so I remember actually speaking to someone who was a massage client, and her asking me like, how do you stay motivated to work out and I was like, I'm sorry, I honestly can't help you with that.
Yeah.
I personally, if I know that moving for 30 minutes a day and meditating is going to help me, I just do it.
Right. You and I are similar in that question too, because when people ask me about motivation, that to me is like the instantaneous like giving up of your power and of choice and kind of adulting. Like if you know, because you've tried it, that it's going to make things better, then it's a choice. It's not about some weird, ominous, unseen motivation that is elusive or you can catch it. I don't know. I agree.
Yeah, no, but it seems to be not everyone can do that, even with that knowledge, and and so I don't want to sort of, I don't want to dismiss it because it's not a struggle that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I want to acknowledge that people have that, but for me, it's not a struggle that I have. I'm like, I know this helps. I'm doing it.
Yeah. Well, I also think that this is actually, you're answering it because as a coach, this is how I answer it, is that your why power has to be stronger than your willpower, because willpower is actually very fleeting. And that's why the fitness industry is based on 30, 60, 90 days, because you go, I can muscle through it for 30, 60, or 90 days. But your why power, your why power is strong. You know, that you go, I know why I do this. I don't always like to do it, but I do it because I feel better. My depression is less. My anxiety is less. My weight is less. I
I
feel
sleep better.
right. Like I sleep now. So I take these over skipping it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
as we head towards closing out here, we talked about the mat big time. We talked about the reset big time. Do you utilize the meditation and the tarot on the site?
Yes. To I do the meditation almost every day.
Yeah.
Alongside, like, I try to do it before that, but these quarantine days, it's sometimes happening after, but I do the meditation, um, listen to the tarot, because just in terms, again, of having that forecast of going, okay, take an umbrella, okay, really hold on to your mat practice, hydrate, it is helpful to me.
Yeah.
um,
Did you have a meditation practice before?
I did not.
Okay.
That was a thing that I had actually, in the Christian tradition that I grew up in, is very different from the one that you grew up in. And the more you talk about yours, the more I'm like, whoa, that's different.
Yeah.
Um, but it actually advocated for that, because it's in scripture that you should be meditating.
Yeah.
Um, but particularly for me, like, the guided meditation is hugely helpful, because otherwise I'm like, the joke at one of my churches was, well, I ended up seeking the Lord in a dream.
That's cute. That's yeah. Well, I was sleeping. And yeah, that happened. I took a nap.
Yeah.
That's
So,
cool because the reason I did a guided meditation on the site is because I think that's the nicest and easiest way of like, let's not think we have to be the yogi on the mountain silent. Let's have somebody read us a bedtime story and just be in receiving. But those
mhm.
meditations are genuinely healings. They're Reiki by proxy, so they take on a different energetics because of it. That I love to hear it when people are like, oh yeah, I totally do it, but I didn't do it before. Like that's cool, like now you've
Yep.
got practice where before it didn't.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, pretty much every day.
it's amazing. And
Mhm.
then do you, the tarot aspect, was tarot something that was in your wheelhouse and your comfort level and something that you
Oh
did?
gosh, no. Like that. Nope, that wasn't in
Refer
there.
to religious upbringing.
Yeah, refer to religious upbringing, and I didn't have an opinion, honestly. I grew up without any type of deck of cards in the house, mostly because my dad had promised that he would not play cards, because it was hard on someone else who was in the faith, and he didn't want to cause that person, um, to stumble. Basically, it was out of care for another person, which I just love that. And so I didn't have an opinion.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, well, I my intuition is actually pretty strong.
Yeah.
I had to it's been a path back to trusting it, but my intuition is actually pretty strong. And so to sort of have a grounding place for that,
Hmm.
um has been interesting and helpful.
That's great. I mean, it just because I like to try to check in with all the pieces that we offer because not all members use all of the pieces, right? And so it's interesting to see, and interesting those of us who do use all the pieces, kind of where we're at with things and how the tools support and balance the other. So I think that's super cool.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm like, if nothing else, like, I like pictures.
Right?
And
Cool.
and I think you talked a little bit about how the brain is happier with pictures. and
Yeah.
and I just laughed, because, like, long before I meddled with tarot, like I collect children's picture books.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't really afford to collect art.
Right. But what a beautiful way to do it.
But yeah, and so I think I have no less than 2 copies of the book Rapunzel because of the artwork.
Yeah.
One of them is I'll just say blackwashed,
I love it.
and Rapunzel's hair is locks, which actually makes
Yeah.
sense no matter what color you paint Rapunzel.
Oh, right.
But
That other stuff would have broken, y'all.
yeah, I'm like, dude, come on. But in one of them, the light is so gorgeous
Yeah.
that um, and so, but yeah, just the pictures, and the way that the mind is able to organize around stories and pictures. And I mean, particularly for me, like I know how I'm able to retain information that I read in stories. Like something was happening with my nephew that looked like croup, and I was just like, make a tea of borage and coltsfoot and have him breathe the vapors and drink the tea. And my mom was like, why do you know how to treat croup with herbs? It was
I
in a
know all kinds of
story.
things because I read and there's pictures. So there.
Yeah, I was like, it was in a storybook.
Well, but this is, I love that you remembered that too, because we've said it, but I don't say it all the time, that part of the tarot. So, like, therapy has its place. I have certainly participated in it. But there is a point for me, and for unicorns, there's a commonality here too, a point where therapy doesn't get us to the place we'd like to be or where we want to be or where we could be. It has its limitations. And tarot, one of the beautiful things about it, whether you believe in the spiritual messaging of it or just the functional, ordering and system of it, is that there is genuine research that our brains calm down and can sort and sift and filter and process emotion, hence art therapy, from pictures better. So I hear this a lot from members and from private clients who do the tarot readings with me, that they're like, that was more useful than like 17 years of therapy. And I'm like, okay, well, not to overstep, but cool. But you can have these breakthroughs because you're seeing it actually makes it easier to process the story. Mm-hmm. Or the path. So I love that you remember that because it's really true. It's one of my favorite things that I read that made the tarot, because I was like, why is this so helpful to clients? Why is this so helpful to me? Like I'm all about the messaging and the magic. But there's also the humanness of how we take in information, what makes it comfortable and what allows us to be capable of processing. You mentioned PTSD. If I'm honest, I have it too. But the tarot has allowed me to release a lot of it because I could process things in a different way. So yeah. Super smart. Last question as we finish this out. We are in quarantine now. We are in pandemic times when we're recording this. How has unicorn wellness, the practice, changed for you? Or how has it, like, where does it fit in these pandemic times for you?
So the only change has been a really fun one for me, is that I wake up in the morning and I make a video call to my mama, who did become a unicorn, and we get on the mat together. So we work. So what the pandemic has done is it's allowed me to take class with my mom.
Amazing.
Which has been super fun, and it gives structure to my day, to wake up. And I have for years known that basically I wake up and work out first.
Okay.
That's most helpful to me. Now the only exception to that was at one point I was babysitting a newborn, and I had to be there much earlier in the morning, where it was like, okay, I cannot get up at 3 to do my workout. And so, but that particular newborn was a very good sleeper, and so I would do my workout while she was napping, and then usually take a nap myself.
Yeah.
But
So it's
so
kind of giving you structure to the days now then.
it's giving structure to the days. It's helping. It's keeping me moving because I am trying. I leave my apartment as little as possible because there are still a lot of people, even here in an epicenter
Yeah.
of the pandemic, that are not taking it seriously, and so it really is anxious for me having to leave my apartment, but that means I have to move.
Yeah.
And so I was relieved when I realized I'm like, nothing about my movement practice has to change. Nothing about my meditation practice has to change. Everything's already in place
Yeah.
for that,
And you still
Like,
have community too online.
yeah.
I mean, to put words in your mouth, but like, you know,
No, it's they like I and I it, it's been relatively recently. It's been since November that I joined a church community because I had gotten as far away from that as I could while I tried to heal from some things.
yeah,
Um, but like those are the two communities that are my lifelines right now.
yeah,
Is the unicorn community? Yes, it's online. Yes, it's still real. And now it's key in me not getting isolated because like I'm single and childless, and so I'm alone all the time.
yeah. I mean, and yet not, and in these
Right.
kind of times we're like, oh, no, people who are like-minded, who are getting on the mat, getting in meditation, so we've got things to talk about. We've got similar, community aspects. Okay, I lied a tiny bit. Your mom is going to be doing a featured member episode with me also. So we'll get to talk to her in another space, but we mentioned her twice and you can't not mention Mama Jones. So, your mom is 72 now,
Correct.
and this is the other crazy thing about the practice is like you guys are practicing online together,
Hmm.
in separate states through a pandemic,
Yes.
through this common, movement pattern. And I can't wait to get to interview your mom because she's got so much to offer. And again, for Unicorn Mom is such a spectrum of ages, right? You and I are going to be 42 this year. She's going to be 73 this year. The spectrum of our membership is like, probably 23 to late 70s, early 80s. This is such a spectrum.
Hmm.
And not to blow your mom's interview, but she had a lot of injuries or issues to work with.
Yes.
And I saw her yesterday for an alignment session. She,
Yeah. Yeah. She's gotten leaner, and I
yeah,
actually
I
because she
said it, and
I
she goes,
don't.
"That's what Paula said," and I'm like, "That is true." Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
hold my 72 like that.
Yeah, because I wanted her to, because I told her to wear fitted clothing, and she
Yeah,
was like, so she can see my fat, and I had looked at her because she wanted to have the camera set up to where you could see her for her
yeah,
alignment session,
yep.
and I was like, I don't think that you're seeing what the rest of us are seeing.
Because I said something too. She goes, "That's what Paula said," and I was like, "You have a very distorted view of yourself and your body because she's rocking." And she, whatever. That's a whole nother. That's why I'm having her on because I
That's
thought it's so cool to have the mother-daughter component, and
Mhm.
two, I just see her getting more spry, and even though she's got injuries and issues, I'm like, you're not
Yeah,
seeing what I'm seeing right now.
yeah.
Both of you all, your body types have changed so much in the
Hmm.
last 5 years. It's,
Right.
and you've shared, we don't do before and afters, but transformation pictures of progress, right? Those pictures of you are like, they still blow my mind.
Right. Well, and I mean, and it makes me laugh because I actually particularly like neck down. I'm built exactly like mom.
Yeah, totally.
So
Totally.
I
So it's
always
funny
like,
because you guys are starting to look more and more alike as you both age.
but I mean, yeah, but I'm like, I've always been built just like her, and
Yeah,
so it's it's encouraging to know. I'm like, that means that as long as I do the work,
yeah,
I can
totally.
continue to build and maintain this body because I'm blessed to have this sort of North Star to go. I do the work, it really will heal. I really like I don't have to take anybody's word for it. Like it
Yeah.
really can heal.
Beautiful. Well, I want to thank you for being with us today, Paula. Such a pleasure. I want to mention to everybody who's watched that they can go follow and find Paula at PJ's Handmade on Instagram. We'll have some other links below. She makes unbelievably amazing clearing bundles. They are my favorites that I use when we meet in person in Brooklyn for our full moon rituals. So a lot of our members now are using them at home and like love them. But she has beautiful goods that she makes, so please go follow and go check them out. Thank you so much for you being a unicorn in this world and sharing you today and taking the time. I love you very much. And for everyone listening, please go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and head to the links below to connect with both Paula and myself through Unicorn Wellness. They're all the ways that you can explore Unicorn Wellness to see if it's a fit for you, for your practice, for your well-being. There's a guest access that you just do an email drop on the site at unicornwellnessstudio.com. The Unicorn Wellness Handbook on Amazon. If you have the Kindle app, you can download it for free. I do magical mentoring or even personal sessions. You will get to see Paula and I both in the private Facebook group once you become a member of the site. So thank you for spending your time with us today. I love you very much, and hopefully we will see you on the mat soon.